Welcome into the Sunday night Texas Electricity Ratings.com live stream. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by CJ Vogel and Rod Babers. And yes, I've got this big hat on because being a Texas fan right now, people are getting big head. Every time they have a junior day or there's a guy that goes in the portal, Texas fans end up, with a commitment. So I'll go from that to the real one now. Sorry about that, guys. I had to play a little joke there. Rod Babers, CJ Vogel here alongside me. Like I said, brought to you by TexasElectricityRatings.com. We appreciate those guys for taking over the sponsorship here. Guys, I've got to tell y'all, big stuff happening on the 40 acres over the weekend. CJ, you were on site on Junior Day. They ended up getting a commitment from a sophomore running back on Junior Day, but then earlier today, Texas dominoed on one of the top defensive players in the state for the class of 2025. Give folks a little rundown about those two players.
It's certainly a success for the Texas staff with this big Junior Day. We talked about over 100 prospects coming onto campus. It was a cold day, and still it didn't deter the big names from showing up. Obviously, 2 commitments out of the weekend, more than what I expected. As we've talked about, Texas has slow played their recruiting cycles. Going out and adding a 2026 piece is not necessarily something that was on my radar, but Texas got a great talent with Racing Guillory, the 2026 running back out of Aledo. The tape is tremendous, clocked a 10.8 with only a 100-meter dash, with only his first track season coming as a true freshman in high school. So impressive stuff. The burst, the acceleration separate him. Over 1,200 yards of rushing as well this season en route to a state championship for Aledo this offseason. And obviously, Lance Jackson adding to the Texas class, the 2025. He is the 5th commitment in the class so far. Great length, great athleticism off the edge up at Pleasant Grove. Great program up there as well. Familiarity with the Division I recruiting landscape as well with his older brother Landon, now at Arkansas. But Lance, really exciting prospect off the edge. We talk about the importance of that position. Texas is getting a good one in the state of Texas with Lance Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 commitments on the weekend. Teoa Aliyah Savea, a defensive lineman out of Arizona, made a visit to Texas yesterday and today. He tweeted a couple things, but we got a hold of him via direct message. He said that was not a commitment, but he was excited about the Longhorns and his visit. The visit, from everything I'm hearing from behind the scenes, went extraordinarily well. For those of you who missed it, this is a 6'4", 305-pound defensive tackle who went into the portal on Friday afternoon. By Friday night, he had already set up a visit to the University of Texas. Big defensive lineman out of Arizona. Of course, Texas hitting home run after home run in the portal right now. And obviously, they need at least 1, if not 2, defensive tackles. Savea has got a scholarship offer from the University of Texas, and he would be a mid-year enrollee for the Longhorns at this point. Here's a picture of him from Twitter earlier today. Our guy, Matt Hutchison, our producer, pulling that up for us there. Big guy, as you can see, in with his mom and dad as well. So that's pretty cool stuff there. That's Johnny Nansen and Pete Kwiatkowski there with him. Johnny Nansen was the one that is recruiting him. Nansen, of course, the new linebackers coach that was the defensive coordinator at Arizona just 1 month ago, leading them to a 10-win defense, by the way. That was a pretty good team. Rod, I got to ask you about this. How important do you think defensive tackle is for Texas to address in the portal this year?
Yeah, it's going to be huge, right? I mean, of all the positions on the team in terms of the roster turnover, that is obviously the most concerning because of what you've lost, not only this season with Devondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. Right now, those guys trending toward both of those guys being drafted early from a first round, second round guys at the latest. So, that's a tremendous loss for you. You had the best D-tackle duo in the country. And even before that, I mean, they had a heavy rotation of these guys, and your rotation was one of the best in the country. You're one of the deepest defensive tackle groups in the country. So I just think that having that luxury, I think it gave you a lot of different options to solve problems defensively. And you're not going to have that. So I'm really interested to see I always say coaches are problem solvers, right? Go solve the problem. I do think, it's going to be interesting to see how PK constructs the defense now without that luxury of the best D tackle and the deepest D tackle room in the country. And I'm not saying that Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton are going to be great, but in terms of having proven commodities, and you lost Bo Davis too. They don't even have a D-line coach right now. So that's another thing that's also concerning. So yeah, I think it's really important. And I wonder, until you fill the void at D-line coach, I wonder if you'll be able to bring in some depth at D-line via the transfer portal, or if you have to wait until the next transfer portal window potentially until you have that position already solidified. I wonder if that's something that's also making players hesitant to jump on board. It would.
Yeah, it could be, and we could have that answer soon. By the way, I mean, we would think now the Houston Texans yesterday losing to the Baltimore Ravens. Rod Wright, the assistant defensive line coach for the Texans, could very well be the next defensive line coach for the University of Texas. And so, Rod, to your point, we're going to wait on Sark to make that announcement and see which way he goes and when he goes with it as well, right? Because, look, the one thing we've learned, if you haven't learned it by now in 3 years of Steve Sarkisian, there is one guy that leads the way and tells you what time it is and when to jump on board, and that's Steve Sarkisian. He's patient. He's also aggressive. It's a weird mix that you're playing it at his level. You have to adjust to him and when he wants things to happen. Rod Wright, Rod is going to be one of those guys that we think right now sounds like the next D-line coach, but we can't sit here and say with any kind of certainty that it will be him. At this point. Hey, basketball team also won a thriller on Saturday. How about that? Tyrese Hunter, after losing 2 games in a row at home, the teams they probably shouldn't have lost to, they beat the number 9 Baylor Bears on a last-second, run the court by Tyrese Hunter, which, by the way, CJ, a lot of guys on Junior Day were there with Steve Sarkisian and group. I think they set aside 250 tickets for recruits and their parents to see that game. Is that correct?
That is. They paraded the recruits over to the Moody Center from Moncrief right before the game. Had great tickets. It looked like they were noticed on the broadcast as well a few times. So really cool to see. Texas took care of their guys on the visit. They got to sit in for the first half of the game and then left at halftime to come back to Moncrief and continue their Junior Day activities and everything on campus there. But really cool to see. The atmosphere. It was a big game, obviously, and credit to the basketball squad as well for pulling out that win. That's a big one in terms of boosting the resume. And hey, it's kind of a theme with this Texas basketball team. I think that's the third buzzer beater game winner so far this year. That's crazy so far, but a lot of excitement. That's a big win. Hopefully they can keep that momentum going.
Yeah, hopefully they build on it, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, Rod, I want to ask you this because you've been around the block a little bit and seen this. Rodney Terry apologizes to UCF, Johnny Dawkins, et cetera, in his post-game saying, hey, I shouldn't have done this. I got into a little spirited discussion with some folks last night about this. Your take on Rodney Terry's post-UCF, not post-Baylor discussion, but whether or not talking to the opponent's team, et cetera, is something you want to see a Texas coach do.
I mean, it's something that I guess coaches, his peers, they frown upon. It's almost like, don't discipline my kids. Come talk to me about what's going on with my kids. Don't you discipline my kids. It's almost that kind of thing, right? Don't go coach my team. You come to me as another coach. You tell me what the problem is, then I'll handle it as a coach. So I understand that. That's the code. And I think Rodney Terry, I guess he believes he violated the G code, because if not, he wouldn't have apologized. So I think he believes that also, I probably was out of line for doing that. Longhorn fans also, they didn't side with him either when he got on them for doing the horns down. The Longhorn fans, they got a code about the horns down too. Hey, the Longhorn fans are not necessarily, they're not soft about the horns down. They understand what it means now. It's the new middle finger of college sports, pretty much, right? Teams just do it all the time, and they do it more and more. Now that Texas is going out of the Big 12 and heading to the SEC, teams don't do the horns down when you win. It's rare. I've never really seen a team do it after you win a game. I've never seen them do it. They do it all the time after the Longhorns lose. That's just part of it. That's just part of the Longhorns losing. Team's gonna do the horns down. I think that, and their players gonna do it. I think that's part of it. And hey, if you don't want them to do it, go win the damn game. You know how that goes. So Longhorn fans didn't appreciate it either. It's like, no, don't be, because now you're perpetuating the reputation. Longhorn fans are soft and they're cupcakes, and and snowflakes when it comes to the horns down. Longhorn fans really don't care about that. They understand it's free media, and it's part of just being a Longhorn. They hate us because they ain't us, but we're not soft about it. We're not mentally soft about it. We understand it. Hey, if you lose and you're not getting it done when the Longhorn football team was bad, that's when the horns down came back. It was really Longhorn football fault. It came back because the Longhorns were not instilling fear in their opponent, and they did not demand respect from their opponents. So everybody was like throwing the horns down on Texas, and it became a thing again. I didn't see a lot. Trust me, when I played, I didn't see a lot. All right, I don't even know if maybe against Oklahoma we see
against OU. Except against OU, Rod. You saw it against OU.
Against OU. Yeah, that's right. Against OU and A&M, we see it. Against everybody else, hey man, we didn't see it because we was winning. We was winning too much to see the horns down. You see a lot when you start losing. So that's what it is.
Hey, well, I thought Rodney Terry, as usual, handled it with class eventually, right? I mean, he was upset in the moment on Wednesday. But look, Rodney, if you haven't had a chance to talk to Rodney Terry in person or one-on-one, you just don't understand how classy he is. And so I feel like he was trying to come from a good place and trying to teach young people how things should be. But I think maybe he even thinks now in retrospect, he may have stepped over the line and should have not been talking to an opponent's players. You know what I mean? Like that, and kind of talking to him about something like that. And so I think he did the best thing he could do, though. I mean, I'm going to say this, even other than the apology, Rod, you're right. The thing that changes the discussion is winning. That changes this discussion, and it changed the discussion about Rodney Terry on Saturday when they beat Baylor. So good for him. All right, this segment show brought to you guys by Texas Electricity Ratings. They're a new sponsor here for us. For those of y'all living in Texas and in the major cities with deregulated electricity like Dallas and Houston, you understand that the deregulated electricity market can be confusing. TexasElectricityRatings.com is a shopping website that lets you compare prices, read customer reviews, and find a good electricity program that fits your needs. It also filters out a lot of the gimmicky plans on websites like Power to Choose that trick customers into expensive bills. So if you're in the market for a new electricity plan, shop TexasElectricityRatings.com/OTF. That's /OTF for all your electricity needs. Hook 'em. That's what they say from Texas Electricity Ratings.com. We appreciate them very much. All right, CJ, we've been looking at it and talking a little bit here about Junior Day. What were some of your major takeaways that people can go back to? By the way, folks, we're going to get to y'all's questions in just a minute, and we may have a special guest here in a little bit. But CJ, talk to people about what you thought the overriding big news was coming out of Junior Day, in your opinion.
Well, it was certainly important for Texas to get Dorian Brew on campus. I think that's one of the biggest visitors of the weekend. A guy that's been long pinned to eventually end up with the Ohio State Buckeyes. He did get to campus eventually. Spent a lot of time very late with Blake Gideon and the Texas staff as well. He actually posted a photo at the conclusion of his trip with the sun down, and the festivities there were supposed to go from 9 to 2. It kind of ranged into that 3:30 range. That's when we saw most of the prospects leaving. But Bruce sticking around as late as he did is certainly encouraging. Texas actually double dipped right there. Sarkisian visited his high school late on Friday as well. So a late rush for the Longhorns there. And then Camoran Morgan, a defensive end prospect. We talked about Lance Jackson joining the class already. Camoran Morgan is another guy that Texas is heavily recruiting as well. He's one that said following his trip, the Longhorns are in his top 5. He's firmly aware and really likes what he sees from the Texas program. Mentioned the move to the SEC. Now what we're going to see from Texas this upcoming season, as well as Texas being on a national scale in terms of winning big-time games. That's something that caught his attention as well. But a lot to like. Texas also offered 5 prospects as well. One of them that I'm really keeping a close eye on is Michael Terry, the athlete out of Alamo Heights. He has ties already to the Texas football program as well. Was waiting on this this offer to come from the Texas staff as well. One that had a lot of hope and expectation this past season to perform, and he did. And now he's in an unofficial top 3 that he mentioned following his visit with Texas, TCU, and Texas Tech.
Texas, TCU, the other 4 offers, all in-state guys, right? More than 20 guys showed up that had offers already. I think this was probably the best Texas Junior Day we've seen maybe since 03, 04, 05, that range. What do you think, CJ? I mean, I know you don't go back that far, but I kind of do. And that's what I'm thinking. I don't know that they've had probably 35 prospects throughout the different years that they've offered scholarships to on campus at one single time before.
This was the biggest junior day that I've covered. You don't see this many prospects getting to one campus for, a single afternoon very often, and Texas was able to pull it off very well. It was, in terms of a talent perspective, it's hard to look at previous events under previous regimes and not see it stack up at the very top in terms of talent as well. There's a lot of out-of-state kids that we haven't mentioned as well. The modern day trio that made it in. Jordan Davison is one that Texas fans should be keeping a close eye on as well. The 2025 running back. John Mills from San Francisco made it in as well. And then the 2026 quarterback out of Tampa, Will Griffin, is one that Texas is really starting to take a close look at as well. He's the number 4 quarterback in the country for the 2026 class. Really talented kid and a big kid, about 6'3", 215, 220 pounds. So really impressive.
Another one of the surprises, Gavin Nix out of IMG Academy, a linebacker. Nobody had him down as coming in. He ended up coming in this weekend as well. Just all in all, a really terrific group of guys showing up in Austin overall. All right, we're going to go to the chat line here a little bit, talk a little take some questions from you guys, give feedback from Rod, CJ, and myself, and see what we have to do here. Let's start with this one, guys. What's the latest on Jabbar Muhammad from David Edwards? Jabbar, the defensive back out of Washington by way of Oklahoma State and DeSoto. He visited Texas on Wednesday and Thursday of this past week, made a beeline for Alabama afterwards, expected to be back in the Metroplex and then head up to Washington and Oregon this week. The thinking here is that Texas is still in a really good spot. That's what I've heard is the latest, but you never know. I mean, right now, Alabama and the understanding and knowledge of that program based on his previous time at Washington and those coaches does matter. I also think that Texas, hoping that he wants to stay closer to home because this is his first year really away from school. He went up to Washington. That's a long trip on your parents. Parents want to go see every game, 4-hour trip every week, plus a little bit of a drive after. So that's one of those things that going to Austin might make it a little bit different. We'll talk a little bit more about him. David Rawls has this question, CJ, when is the last day to enroll for spring? Because guys like Muhammad, who are spring enrollees, or even Tioa Alea Savea, some are spring enrollees, they have to enroll by a certain date.
Yeah, the first day of the semester was Tuesday the 16th. The add drop period ends 2 weeks following the first day of class. So the 30th is the last day to finalize your schedule for the spring semester. Mid-year enrollees, obviously on campus right now, you can expect portalers to make their decision before then, before that 30th window. With Jabbar Muhammad specifically, I expect his decision to come a little bit later as a result of making that trip out to Alabama. You have that Oregon trip as well that is scheduled at the moment too. So expect a decision to come following the Oregon trip, and then we'll start to see exactly where the dominoes fall with him. But he has until the 30th, in my understanding, before a decision has to be made to get on campus for the spring semester at Texas.
Got it. Got one here for you, Rod, that I want to get your sense on because you've been in this actually predicament where A lot of fans are concerned about portal additions taking snaps away from younger guys. I feel the players understand the role of portal commits. What are y'all's thoughts? And when I said you're in this position, you've been a player where younger guys or new guys are coming in trying to take your job, right? How do you think players really see that from an inside look?
It's obviously I wasn't a part of the transfer portal era, so it's going to be a little different. I do remember thinking in the NFL, since it seems to be closer like the pros these days, with the amount of migration you have of players going from team to team. Even though I guess in the NFL, that's the complaint from guys like Nick Saban is that, hey man, at least in the NFL we have there are restrictions and regulations on free agency, and seems to be in college there isn't. But I do remember thinking in the NFL, hey man, watching the NFL draft, I want my team to get better. I just don't want them to draft my position. So I guess maybe they have that kind of, maybe some of the guys have that mindset that, hey man, not basically they're drafting my position. Hey man, I'm here. It's like when they bring in 3, 4, 5 receivers. If you're a receiver, though, you're probably going, oh man, I guess they don't think that they got enough receivers, enough proven receivers. So I guess I'm saying it's a different era. So I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. I guess there would be that mindset about, hey, but the hope is that you just uplift, and this is the intention. You just want to uplift the competition level, period, by any means necessary. And you just want the competition level in that room to be as high as it possibly can. So that whatever the outcome ends up being, whoever ends up winning that job of that battle, that competition during the offseason, spring, and the offseason, they got plenty of time to prove themselves, right? They got plenty of time to be banging on Quinn Ewers' door. Hey, man, I'm trying to get some passes in. Let's go. I'm trying, they got plenty of time to work on their weaknesses and strengths. They got plenty of time for all that to go talk to the coaches about, hey, what's my issue? Like, what do I need to work on? All those things. And whatever the outcome is, you can, as a coach, you can be fine with it because you know that, hey man, the competition level was so high in that room that whoever ends up winning that job, who's the best of the best, that's the best possible option that we have. That's the best available option that we had. And that's what ended up happening to us. Now, it was by kind of traditional recruiting when they stacked the DB room with us, and they started stacking, the wide receiver room with 5-star receivers, started stacking the quarterback room. And at one point with Chris Sims and VY and Chance Mock, you had multiple 5-star quarterbacks in that room too. Mac Brown started stacking those classes, and we didn't have the availability of transfer portal. Maybe some of those guys would have transferred. Who knows? But I know the intention is, that's why I think it's tough for these days to have that culture. When you stack those classes like Mac Brown did, and guys don't really have anywhere to go. You got to fight it out. It's like a steel cage match in that DB room, man. Between me and Quentin Jammer and Cedric Griffin, young Michael Huff in the mix. It was like crazy in there, man. Ahmad Brooks. So that was a little different. Now these guys have options, but Sark has done a really good job with the culture. The guys want to be here so bad. They don't want to be in the transfer portal. That's that, for them, that even Malik Murphy talked about it. I didn't want to have to go in the transfer portal. It was only because I had to. I wanted to be around this team. I love being around this team. So give Sark credit for that. But that's what you want to do, man. You want to stack the room so the competition level is extremely high, and then those guys can pretty much battle it out. And once they win those jobs, you're confident that that's the best available option you had available.
All right, Rod, you just mentioned the steel cage match. We've got someone on the line here that we want to introduce to everyone that's going to enter that steel cage here for a second. Lance Jackson, the newest commitment for the University of Texas, joins us here on Texas Football. How you doing, Lance? And congratulations, bud.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm doing pretty good.
So tell us what did it all come down to? Why the University of Texas, Lance?
Since my recruitment started, I just knew I loved Austin. My first trip was down my freshman year, but I didn't have an offer yet. And then they offered me last spring, I think, by Coach Gideon. And then ever since that, Coach PK, me and him just been building our relationship. And I knew him from my brother's recruitment. So, Landon thought he was a good dude. Landon wanted to take his official there, but COVID kind of messed all that up. But, yeah, it's just really my relationship with Coach PK. I love how he coaches, and I want to be coached by him.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier when we were chatting over DMs that you spent a lot of time with Coach PK on the trip. What was y'all's conversation like? And you mentioned the building of relationship as well. How close are y'all now? And how exciting is it now to be in the class and eventually coached by him as well?
It's very exciting. I mean, we don't really talk that much football anymore. Usually when he comes out to my school, that's really when we talk football. But I mean, we really just talk life, and it's basically just like a friendship right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Landon, you played tight end, you played defensive end. They recruited you as a buck. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. So tell everybody how big you are and what you like about football, that sort of stuff.
Well, at the end of the season, I was 6'6", 245, but I've been putting on some weight. Now I'm 6'6", 260. And what was the other question?
I guess what do you like to do? What do you like about football? Like some people like football, some people love football. Some just want to use it as a means to get an education. I mean, what is it about football that makes you like that sport?
I mean, I love football. It's just fun to me. I mean, every time I'm on the field, everything around me just goes blank. All I think about is football. I mean, I really just love everything about football. You get to hit people without getting in trouble. So,
you also mentioned that you were about to take the mound this spring for baseball season. I mean, are you bringing 90 plus? You got a mean hook. What do you bring to the pitching mound there?
Yes, sir. I haven't got clocked this year yet, but the end of my freshman year summer, I hit 93 in Florida, and yeah. So my 8th grade year, I was getting recruited by Arkansas to play baseball, but I didn't get to play last season of high school because I tore my labrum during football. So that kind of ruined my last year's season, but now I'm back on it.
Wow. Yeah, 93 plus. That's pretty exciting. Not many people touching that in the high school ranks, but I wanted to go to your film real quick. You have great acceleration and burst off the line at the edge spot. I mean, when did you start to know that you were going to start to develop and grow into an eventual Division I football player? Was there a moment in your football playing career where you were like, I'm going to be pretty good at this sport?
Well, I grew up, my first love was baseball. And then my 5th grade to 6th grade year, my brother, he started getting recruited. I mean, when we were younger, we didn't even really know what that meant. I mean, we did a little bit just because my dad, he played basketball at A&M. But so, yeah, we never really got talked to about it by him. And then my brother's first offer was A&M, and I feel like that's kind of what just made it click and made me want to start playing football, just I guess to be like him since he got his offer his freshman year.
Hey, Lance, I got a question. Do you have, as a pass rusher, do you have a repertoire of moves, or you got a signature pass rushing move that you go to?
I don't really have a signature pass rush move. I mean, right now I'm usually just quicker and faster than all O linemen, so it's really just speed, and then I also have the strength with me to kind of help me if the speed doesn't work. But I mean, yeah, I can do much, but I mean, right now I try not to do too much because I mean, you don't really need to.
Okay.
Lance Jackson. Now I listed you, and now I feel bad. I listed you at 6'5", 245 in the article that we wrote today, and you're telling me you're 6'6" and you've gained weight. So
Yes,
I'll tell you what. Sorry about doing you a disservice there. So what all went into your final decision? Who did you lean on? Your mom, your dad, your brother? How did that come about for you?
Really, all three of them, and my head coach, Coach Josh Gibson. I mean, it's just been phone calls with them. Coach Gibson talked to me during the week. He knew I was kind of leaning toward it, but he didn't know for sure I was doing it this weekend. And then, so I went down with my mom, and Saturday when we were watching the basketball game, Coach BK left me for a little bit to go back to the football. And then I called my dad just to make sure everything was all right, everything was good. He was fine with it. He was all up for it. And I talked to Coach Gibson on the phone, and he was proud of me, and he went all for it and everything because, I mean, he knows how good of a coach Coach PK is and Coach Giddy, and he's met both of them, and they all loved it. And then Landon, that's just been calls for the past 4 days just talking about it and everything.
Very cool.
Lance, I've got one more for you. You're in the class now. There's going to be a lot of questions about where Texas goes continue filling out this class? Your commitment number 5. Is there anybody that you kind of have your eye on in terms of you hope to add to the class? I saw you and Tredarian Ball going back and forth a little bit on Twitter as well. A little Northeast Texas talents right there. But who do you have your eye on right now to add to this Texas class?
Not really specifically anybody right now, but I mean, I know I'm going to try recruiting some defensive players to get that 2025 defense crazy. And then also Tredarian, he's in my hometown, so I mean, I would like him to go with me. He's in the 26th class.
Got it. Lance Jackson. Lance, appreciate you, buddy. Congratulations. Thanks for stopping by, sharing your time with the Longhorn fans here on Texas football. Take care of yourself. Stay warm. I see that big camo coat you got there. Keep yourself warm, buddy. You stay warm this winter and have a good spring practice, etc. up at Pleasant Grove High School in Texarkana. Have a good one and hook 'em, Lance.
Sir, thank you. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em,
Right,
buddy. Right, thanks, man. Good stuff. Thanks for him to stopping by on Texas football. CJ, you met with him and talked to him a little bit, I think, on Saturday at the junior day. It sounded like a bunch of those guys had camo jackets on because it was so cold outside up there.
I mean, it was a cold one. That was one of the coldest times I've experienced here down in Austin. You don't see 20-degree wind chill, 15-degree wind chill, whatever it was, all too often. And credit to those kids and those parents for sticking it out because it was cold. One note here, we mentioned the 5 offers that went out. One of them was going to Gus Cordova, a 2025 edge prospect out of Lake Travis. Showed up in a T-shirt. He did not seem to be affected by this cold that I've been complaining about since Saturday as well. So that was a little noteworthy, a little fun as well. So that certainly interesting.
I was not in a T-shirt on Saturday.
I had multiple, probably 5 layers on.
Yeah,
exactly. Come on.
Rod B, what were you? Rod B had his slippers on, man. Robe. I can see that now.
No, man, trust me. No, I don't like the cold. And for some reason, God wanted me to play in the cold. All the teams that were interested in Rod B in the NFL were cold weather teams. Had one warm weather team. That was Tampa. That was it. Everybody else wanted me to play in the cold. It was terrible.
Did you see that video this weekend of the punter or the placeholder for a kicker that kind of pulled his hamstring after a blocked kick in the cold weather? I just thought immediately, that's what I thought. I go, that's about right. I mean, somebody's going to pull their hammy in that kind of weather all the time. A guy like Rod B doesn't even pull his hammy, and when speed's his game. All right, hey, this is from Jeff Gary. Guys, appreciate your hard work and expertise. Michigan, who might we target if Coach Harbaugh goes to the NFL? Defensive tackles.
Nice.
Look, they've got a list of them, including Rod Smith, I think is the young man's name that almost took a visit to Texas late last year out of Chicago. But I think it's too early to kind of go portal hunting right now on guys that actually haven't moved into it or their coach hasn't moved on. If their coach moves on, I think it's fair for us to kind of start going over that because it's clear that coaching movement right now is actually playing a role in this. That may be the biggest thing that I think we learned this portal cycle, Rod and CJ, and I wanted to get y'all's feedback on it. It feels like we know now that a head coach leaving will have an immediate impact on the portal, maybe outsized impact than what was previously thought just a month ago.
And not only that, to take that even further, to add to it, it's these blue bloods now. You've never seen this much turnover at blue blood institutions. Usually blue blood, that was a destination job, parade upon box, right? You're just trying to stay there until you died, till they kick you out. But either we've seen blue bloods like Texas be impatient, Charlie Strong, Tom Herman, turnover. I'm not that obviously before the transfer portal rules, but I'm saying we've seen them become, less patient with that. And now, hell, like Lincoln Riley, you're seeing like actually coaches start to leave these blue blood programs and decide to go to greener pastures. Like that's something we haven't ever seen before.
Yeah, Brian Kelly as well. To your point, Rod, it's weird. It's a little, not something you see very often, but Texas luckily has their guy and he's locked in for a while. So I'm hopeful we're not in that flight searching mode, that we have been, that cycle of checking the flight trackers over and over. So I think Texas is in good hands for now. Yeah,
the extension with Steve Sarkisian really set that kind of to rest. And then I think about it, and I look at Alabama, and it's just hard for me. I mean, it's like y'all said, that's a destination job, and it's a destination recruiting for recruits too, right? And to see Nick Saban retire, then all of a sudden 10, 15 guys hit the portal, including some of their best players on their team. That's an eye-opener for a lot of college football fans across the country. All right, hey, look, if you guys may or may not know this yet, but over the weekend we did a little soft launch, is what I like to call it, our website called ontexasfootball.com. Guys, feel free to join in the conversation over there. CJ, myself, Blake Monroe, writing articles on a daily basis, answering questions. Rod B, you're part of it. Some other guys as well, taking a good role. We're excited about this. If you get a chance, just come on over. It's free. We're trying to build a website that a lot of people can enjoy and bring with us, and just talk Longhorns, make it a positive conversation, while also being, it's no fun if you don't have an opinion at the same time, right? So you got to have an opinion, but also be appropriate with it, and we'll have some fun on TexasFootball.com when we're not here talking to you guys via the chat room, etc., on the video streams. All right, let's keep going here. We got some other ones. Jameson Washington asks, do you guys think we have to get a defensive line coach first because defensive linemen need direction? Do you think that Rod Wright or whoever needs to come in as an interior defensive line coach before they get, say, Tioloa, Ilea, Savea out of Arizona? You think that has to come first? CJ, Rod, either one? I think they're in a spot right now where it would certainly be nice to have him on board, but it's no rush. You will be in the off-season winter conditioning camp right now. You'll be dealing every day with the strength and conditioning group as well. So you're not necessarily seeing your position coach every single day as a result. So it's not an absolute need right now. It'd be nice, obviously, for recruiting. It would have been nice to probably have had a coach for this past weekend when these recruits were on campus. However, the Texas staff has picked up the load and certainly pieced things together pretty well to come out with 2 commitments in the class and still have a pretty nice group of defensive tackle prospects on campus as well. So it would be nice, not necessarily a game breaker at this moment. As we get closer to the spring, I don't think obviously it's going to ever leak into, that far into the calendar, but that is when you'll really start seeing these guys get with their position coaches day in and day out, more so than what we'll see on Monday, tomorrow, when Texas starts up their offseason winter workouts. All right.
I just think sorry.
Go ahead. Go, Rod.
Go ahead, Bobby. Well, no, I just said earlier, I just think it's going to be tough to bring in defensive linemen until you get the D-line coach solidified, whoever that is. I just think that might be tough. And I could be wrong about that. And not because of, obviously anything that Texas is lacking, just because I think whoever they're trying to bring in is going to want to know who they're going to be working with every day. I mean, that's an intimate thing with your position coach. It really is. It matters. It should anyway.
Well, Savea may be slightly different, Rod, because he has familiarity with Nansen, not only at Arizona, but also at UCLA. Nansen was at UCLA prior, and I think he recruited him as well. So it could be slightly different there. But to your point, what about the high school guys that just came in, right? Zion Williams out of Lufkin, one of the best defensive linemen in the state of Texas, if not the best, actually visited LSU this past weekend on Saturday instead of Texas because of Bo Davis. He knew Bo Davis was going to be down there, didn't know who the defensive line coach was going to be at Texas. That's an issue that people need to be aware of. So not a non-factor for sure, right? As we look at this. All right, a couple other things. Ryan Nelson says, hey, our defensive trenches will be tested in week 2 for sure. That means we're looking at the Michigan game on September 7th. I definitely think the defensive trenches will be tested with that running a game. By the way, Michigan's second running back, is it Donovan Edwards? He decided to return to school. Is that right? CJ, I see you nodding your head.
Yep, he is coming back. Not a lot of Michigan starters from their national championship team are expected back. He is one of them, and he's a big one. Scored 2 touchdowns in the national championship game, both of which I think 35 or 40 yards a piece. So really talented running back. And Michigan, as long as Harbaugh is there, is going to produce trench talent. That has been a staple as we're starting to see Sarkisian transition into that approach as well. So it's going to be a great test. I think the offensive line right now is going to be up for the test. The defensive line, as we've been talking about, we'll see. We'll see.
Gotcha. We've had a couple of people ask this, and I'm going to pull up Don McWilliams. Thank you for the super chat, Don. Any concerns with KJ Lacey at Alabama? He has been there with Williams, and talk is Williams is a lock at Bama and will bring KJ with him. So I want to say this. Lacey is going on all visits with Ryan Williams, is my understanding. So just because he was at Alabama this week doesn't mean he's not going to be at Texas next week with Ryan Williams. So take that for what it's worth. And that means also he's likely to see Auburn and LSU as well. So keep that going. It wasn't a surprise to Texas coaches that KJ Lacey was at Alabama this weekend.
Right.
Want to make sure people understand that. So I would calm down a little bit on that. It doesn't mean that Alabama's not going to have something to say for it. You know, I mean, look, they're a good football program, a proud tradition and history. He's an in-state player from down in the Mobile area. Of course, they're not going to give up for him right now. And so we'll see what that means altogether, but not something that I'm super concerned with out of the gate for Texas. All right, hey Rod, I got a couple thoughts on some things and wanted to ask your take on them. Going back to the portal, and you kind of compared it earlier to a draft pick. Like if you're a wide receiver, like Texas has a couple of young wide receivers in Jonte Cook, DeAndre Moore, Ryan Niblett, but you see Texas bring in 3 wide receivers. Okay.
Yeah.
And they're older. It's almost like a free agency as opposed to draft picks, because they're going to bring draft picks in every year in the NFL. And just like in the college football, but it's almost like they're bringing in free agents. Is that a better comparison, I guess, for you to think about and how players might feel about that?
No, I totally agree. I mean, like I said, I wasn't in that situation, but I understand why some guys may see that as a threat and may be insecure about it and may decide that they don't see a path to play because of that. So I get it, and if there is some growing, maybe insecurity in a certain position room because of that, I wouldn't throw it out. I wouldn't discount that. I mean, that's probably the reality. I think that's up to the culture of the team, though, to turn that into constructive competition between the guys. And if you got the right dogs in that room, which you should, everybody in that room should believe that they got what it takes to be a starting player at Texas. Otherwise, why come here? Right? Why come to Texas? You want to play with other great players. This is what you came here to do. If you have confidence in yourself and you're willing to put in the work, it takes what it takes, then that's the culture that you want to cultivate there in that room. That's what the running back room has become, right? The running back room is, I was talking to Cedric Baxter, third and Longhorn, and, it's amazing the attitude that he came in with as a 5-star running back, with just the, really the already as a young player, the unselfishness and the willingness to just learn. He was like, I just want to learn. I just want to come in and just learn as much as I could early. And he said he wasn't planning on, coming in competing for like winning the starting job. He was coming in really to just learn and soak up as much as he could as a player. And of course, you want to compete. But I think that's kind of when you talk about the short choice and what Stan Drayton did before him and what they're cultivating in that running back room, what Jay Brooks did, right? Even after not winning the starting job, you almost want to be able to replicate that in every room where you're bringing in dogs. They're all 5 stars. They're all highly rated guys, and they have all a willingness to learn. but also that competitive sickness, all right, where, hey man, even though they're all bonded by this camaraderie that exists between them, they're all competing against one another as well. And that's when you have a special position group, when you can do that. And then you start the pipeline of NFL guys coming out. Every time a guy wins the job in that room, you got to have the football character and to have the DNA, the football DNA that it takes to win the job in that room. Of course, you're an NFL player. That's because they've created this kind of, like I said, this steel cage match of competition and this really, really constructive culture. And I think that's what every room wants to recreate. And I don't think the wide receiver room just may not be there yet, but I think they want to get there. And I think every room wants to. I remember the DB room in Texas was like that, and it was like that for generations after I left. Young guys that was just, it was, if you was a starting Texas cornerback or a starting Texas safety, it's a really good chance NFL scouts were going to check you out because they knew it had become a factory at that point. And I think that's what you want at every position. And I think running back is probably like that right now for Texas. They're trying to get a lot of different ones like that. They're trying to get linebacker like that, right? They're trying to get, the wide receiver room. They love to be like that. Quarterback, they'd like to be like that now, right? When Quinn leaves, then Arch Manning becomes the guy. That's what. And then when you get like that, you'll become Ohio State, what Georgia, is right now, what Alabama is, Michigan. That's the 4 or 5 schools that can do that because everybody can't do it.
Right. I want to stick with you here. Rilo Hookham has Rillo Hookham has a question for you, Rod. How does Willie Gay, the former corner for the Steelers, coming in with his NFL experience? He's just been named as a secondary assistant for the University of Texas. They have limited ability to help on the field, but from the DB room, both in technique, etc. What do you see a guy that has that many skins on the wall? How many years did he play in the league? Was it 13 or something? 9? I can't remember. I mean, he played a long time. But he's coming back.
He played a long time. You're right. It's like 12 or 13 years or something like that. I'll go look it up. But mostly for the Steelers. This is what I love about him. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, like I was like 90% of his career or more of that was with the Steelers. Mike Tomlin, my former DB coach when I was with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Love me some Mike Tomlin. And, I believe Dick LeBeau was there a lot of the time that he was there. Dick LeBeau is known for being one of the greatest defensive minds in NFL history. So just being around Dick LeBeau for a long time, Mike Tomlin is also a really great defensive mind. I think I'm sure he soaked up a lot of that. And he brought him back twice. He was with him one time, I think left. And I forgot, I think he was with Arizona or something like that when he left for like a year or so. Then they brought him back. Says a lot about what they think of him to bring him back once you leave the Steelers. Right? The Steelers, if you leave on the bad terms, like, nah, man, we the Steelers, we done with you. All right, this guy, they traded the Super Bowl MVP. They the Steelers. They operate a certain way. Ask Antonio Brown. They're Steelers. And they brought him back since they got a lot of respect for him. So I'm looking forward to it. Maybe he can help them because I think he's going to be doing a lot of self-scouting, a lot of advanced scouting for them. And I wonder if he could help them figure out some of their past defense issues, some of their coverage issues. I talked about this last season a lot, but, they had issues with defending bunch formations. They had trouble defending a lot of inside breaking routes with leverage. They had trouble with the deep ball, as we saw against Washington, right? There were just some things that the secondary could work on overall. They're going to be a lot better, especially if they get Jabbar Muhammad. But I think adding a guy like him, just they could give the coaches some concepts and solutions to those issues that really plagued them last season in pass defense could really be a tremendous help. And that's what I was hoping, if they got Coach Akina in that role, that he would be doing for them. When you do a lot of self-scouting, that's what I imagine they'll be doing first. That'll be the first job I'd give them. Like, hey, man, I need you to give us some ideas, usually from the league. Watch us in these games against these concepts and give us ideas about what you guys did in the league, what you guys would do, what would you do in that situation. We need solutions because they really never figured it out. They never figured it out all season long.
You just mentioned Dwayne Akina, and I want to say congratulations to him. According to Football Scoop, Dwayne Akina is now the defensive coordinator at the University of Arizona. He got the
There you go.
the defensive coordinator job. You want to know why he didn't stay and take the analyst role at Texas? He got a defensive coordinator job at the University of Arizona. That's big time.
Pretty good.
Rod, your former,
That's a pretty
former
good
coach. Hey, you're happy for him. I mean, look, we were sad that, but when you get a job that pays you $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 more to go be a defensive coordinator somewhere or go back and be an on the field coach, you got to be happy for a guy like that. Because Rod, I know you talk so highly about him, and he's done so much for you.
Yeah,
right.
And that just shows you he's a scheme savvy guy too, right? He's a scheme savvy guy. And to be a guy that goes from analyst to defensive coordinator just shows you the respect that he has in the coaching circles. So it was all about his decision, right? Whether he wanted a reduced role, did he want to be, and obviously he does not want a reduced role, all right? Coach Akina's all in. That does not surprise me. That's his spirit. And he talked about how he gave him his word, and Coach Akina he's a man of his word, and he's a great man. He's a better person than he is a coach, and he's, in my opinion, a Hall of Fame coach. If you could get him as a position coach or coordinating Hall of Fame, he'd be that kind of guy. So I'm happy for him. Not surprised that they got. Like I said, I thought he would be pulled up for some other job. Somebody else would call him up. He's got such a great name. At one point, he was considered the best DB coach in all of college football, and that wasn't too long ago. So, yeah, I'm not surprised, and I'm happy for him. Just shows you why he wasn't going to be an analyst at Texas, though.
You wanted it to be true. We all wanted it to be true. Not just you, Rod, but I think Longhorn Nation that remembers him as the architect somewhat of DBU, right? Back in the aughts, so to speak. All right, hey, a couple of other questions I want to get to here. Ekin, Bobby, the size of the 2025 recruiting class. As of right now, I think it's too early to say that for sure. I don't think they're trying to, oversign or anything like that. What I will say is my take on this, Ekim, this early in the process, you start at the number 20, and then you either go down or go up based on attrition. That's basically the number you start out. Not 25, but 20. Because right now you're going to, unless you lose 20 guys, you may not be able to do that with attrition plus the portal guys you're bringing in right now. So I would start at 20 and then count up and count down from there. So there's no hard and fast number right now, in my opinion. All right, guys, a couple other questions I guess we have to ask here. CJ, this must be somebody you know. CJ was a beast at catcher in high school. You ever catch anybody that threw 93 like Lance Jackson, though?
Yeah, actually,
Nice.
I did. I would go down to Florida for those perfect game tournaments. I was catching 93. I mean, not often. It wasn't very fun. I also, for the record, did not text anybody to submit that, but I'm very thankful for it. Just letting y'all know. I didn't have anything to do with this one.
Nice. How are your knees? Your knees in good shape as a catcher?
Hey, man, I got terrible ankles. I don't know why I picked catching, but it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Nice.
Can't get back into a squat all too much now, but fun at the time.
You're going to have arthritic knees when you're 50, buddy. I talked to someone that had to have surgery on his knees because he had arthritic knees, but he has young kids. That's got to be tough.
Oh, yeah.
I want to stick with you, CJ. We've had a couple hundred people join us since the start of this. Can you recap the big news of the day with the commitment from Lance Jackson, as well as last night with Racine Guillory and the junior day that Texas had, as well as what the latest is on the portal?
Yeah, absolutely. 100 prospects made their way to Texas, fighting the cold, fighting the wind, whatever it was. They wanted to see the University of Texas following their big run to the National College Football Playoff as well. So this past season, a lot going on. 2 commitments, one in the 2026 class, getting things started there with Racing Guillory out of Aledo. Talented running back, a lot of speed, a lot of acceleration and burst. Big play guy waiting to happen. I think Jaden Blue, but a little bit more, I guess, thinner, built very well as well. Jaden Blue's type speed, however. And then in the 2025 class, we actually just talked to him. Lance Jackson, the defensive end out of Pleasant Grove, joined the class as well. Texas views him as a buck edge, and so that's exactly what Texas saw as well this past season with Zena Umeozulu, as well as I believe Trey Moore is in that fold as well. So a lot going on. Defensive line class is starting to take some shape. The big name to me that made it to campus was Dorian Brew, the 5-star cornerback out of Conroe. He attended Texas this past Saturday, as well as Sarkisian getting onto campus at high school on Friday. So there was a loose commitment date set for January 24th for Brew. I do not believe that we'll see that commitment fall through on that date. So Texas is doing a good job making a push here, getting things involved, and obviously making things a little bit more difficult for Brew to make a decision. The other guy I really wanted to focus on was Elijah Bo Barnes as well. Texas hosted a pretty talented group of linebackers. Jonah Williams did not make it in, but Texas did host Elijah Bo Barnes and Riley Pettijohn, both of whom looked very impressive in their, just shorts, shirt, sweats, whatever it was. They walked out of the car, walked off the bus, and it was immediately like, whoa, these guys look like they can play some football. And the tape certainly backs it up. So 2 really impressive prospects. They are certainly high on the board for the Texas Longhorns as well, and Johnny Nansen getting to meet both of them and continue their relationship with the rest of the Texas staff. But also in the portal, as you mentioned, Texas has, let's see if I can pronounce it, Tioa Leah Sevilla on campus this weekend from Arizona, the portal defensive lineman. He is on campus, tweeted out some photos this afternoon, has not committed. We confirmed that via DMs earlier this afternoon as well. And Texas is still pursuing Jabbar Muhammad, who we expect will make a decision later in the week. I do not expect a decision to come early this week. He still has time to go out and visit Oregon after being at Alabama this past weekend and visiting Texas earlier in the midweek as well. So a lot going on. Texas looking to add to their defense. As we've seen, 7 guys in the portal already this year added to the Texas roster, looking to get up to 8, potentially even 9 as well.
All right. Thanks, CJ, for that update. I want to say thank you to our sponsor one last time. We got time for more questions after this. But first, I want to say thanks to TexasElectricityRatings.com. For anyone shopping for electricity in the deregulated areas of Texas, TexasElectricityRatings.com is the best place to find a great electricity plan for your household. For starters, it filters out the dangerous and gimmicky plans from providers that are all hat and no cattle when it comes to your monthly bill. You can shop by rate, but also by an average bill feature that actually takes into account seasonal usage to give you a real number and not some placeholder. So if you're looking for a new electricity plan this winter, check out TexasElectricityRatings.com/OTF for the best options available. Hook 'em. Thank you to TexasElectricityRatings.com. All right, let's go back to the chats. Have a couple of more items we want to get to tonight before we call it a night and get ready for the week. I hope everybody's enjoying themselves. First of all, Casey says, shoot, 35,000 subs. Yes, we just hit the 35,000 sub number. Excuse me, Mark, I was going to say. Thank you so much for everybody being here along the way. T. Mattia had this, though. While Harbaugh is on the NFL interview circuit, is anyone working the portal and recruiting for them during the busy time? Yes, he's got tons of assistants, including Connor Stallions, who's now available on Cameo, I am told. If you want to get a Cameo from Connor Stallions, you just have to pay, what, $75, CJ? If not, then assume Harbaugh and the staff is already gone. So I don't know that that's true, Matai. I don't think people are assuming he's gone. He also got offered another extension that would make him one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid college coach in the country. Michigan doing their darndest to try to keep him. And you know what? I mean, Jim Harbaugh, by the way, for pro franchises, may have to be an acquired taste. I mean, he may not be the right fit for everybody. I would just say that. Other thing I want to mention as it relates, I talked about this earlier and said that Texas, that we couldn't really pontificate about Michigan players that might go in the portal if Harbaugh left. That doesn't mean the University of Texas staff doesn't do that. Just because we don't do it, because there's so many different moving parts, doesn't mean Texas won't. So, you know, that there are staff and there are people out there that work at the University of Texas. That's kind of their job. So if someone goes to the portal, they're ready to pounce, right? I mean, we've seen that a couple different times in this transfer portal cycle as it is right now. Kelly Hyden, this one I'm going to leave to you, Rod. Interested to know how you think Quinn rates versus the SE teams QBs that we will face in 2024. I saw something today, Rod, that basically had Quinn the best quarterback to make a decision to return by one publication, and in that very within an hour, another publication came out and said, no, that was Harrison Beck, the Georgia quarterback. I think, is it fair to say that those two are probably the best quarterbacks coming back in the SEC next year?
Yeah, I think that is fair. I was going to say Beck would probably be the one that they would also say was in that category. As the best quarterbacks returning in the SEC. Trying to think if there's some sleepers out there that we're not thinking about. The transfer portal always is kind of wacky, so you got to remember about transfer portal. But I think if you're talking about the best returning quarterbacks with their teams, you're looking at Beck and Quinn Ewers in the SEC, and they'll face off in 2024, which is really cool.
Got it. Hey, CJ, this one's going to be for you, buddy. Did Nasir Wyatt, the linebacker from Mater Dei, Brandon Brown, the defensive lineman from O'Galley, Florida, make it to campus? Also, what was the buzz of Jordan Davison, the running back out of Mater Dei? Also, Nix's teammate, Boateng, a linebacker, is Texas going to pursue him? A lot of questions there, but just take it one by one.
Yeah, be sure to leave that chat up there so I can make sure I don't skip anything. So Nasir Wyatt did not make it to campus, and I do not believe Brandon Brown did either. I did not see him. I did not confirm that he did make it to campus as well. He's someone that Texas obviously would have preferred to get him on campus. His commitment right now is still there, but it's going to be a long fight for the Longhorns to keep hold of it. Obviously, no more Bo Davis on roster or on staff is going to be something that plays a factor with Brandon Brown as well. Jordan Davison, however, did make it to campus, and he got in around 5 p.m. on Friday, so he got to hang out in the city a little bit Friday night and then go into his visit on Saturday. Spend some time, one-on-one time with Steve Sarkisian as well in his office. It's clear Texas is prioritizing Jordan Davison. He's a guy that Texas feels very good about as well behind the scenes. A lot of ties and connections there, and it would certainly strengthen that Mater Dei pipeline that we have talked about so often. A trio of prospects made it in from Mater Dei this past weekend as well. Gavin Nix was the surprise visitor that we mentioned from IMG Academy, 2025 linebacker. Boateng is someone that Texas is aware of. I do not think that they're going to heavily pursue all too much right now as a result of the loaded linebackers that we have mentioned earlier this stream with Elijah Bo Barnes and Riley Pettijohn.
Got it. All right. A couple other thoughts and questions here, and I thought this is a good one to kind of end it on. From Rillo Hookham, ready to see replays of Rod Wright cruising down the field against OU after he Bomar'd Rhett Bomar, or actually after Brian Robeson Bomar'd Rhett Bomar. What do y'all think about that? To kind of sign up when when across the media market, all the TV stations are going to be showing video of that play when Rod Wright, or if Rod Wright is named the defensive line coach at the University of Texas. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this evening. We've got more time tomorrow morning. We're going to be back with coffee and football. We got a special guest lined up for that. We got other things going on as well. CJ had to cut out a little earlier for Rod Babers, CJ Vogel. We also want to say thank you, by the way, to Lance Jackson, the latest defensive line commit for the University of Texas. He committed to the Longhorns today, for joining the show for a little bit. And for CJ, Rod Babers, and myself, Bobby Burton. You guys have a good one. Thanks to Texas Electricity Ratings. We'll see y'all this week. Have a good week, guys.